Hi, and welcome to our kitchen. My name's Chef Roman Longoria. I'm with the San Antonio Food Bank, and during this fall season, there's a wide variety of squashes coming out. And today, we're gonna be using a spaghetti squash. It's gonna be the perfect accompaniment for our recipe today, spaghetti squash Italiano. So let's cook. So, this is our spaghetti squash. It's hard on the outside, so we need to be very careful. We definitely want to use a strong backed knife in order to cut this. So first I'm going to start by cutting both ends. I'm going to cut the top part using a little bit of pressure and watching my hands. Do the same thing on the other side, cutting all the way through. So what happens now is I've created a nice little stand. He's nice and steady. So now I'm going to take my knife, both hands, and I'm going to start cutting down. Just rocking my way back and forth, using my body pressure to cut all the way through. So now I have my spaghetti squash cut. I'm gonna take a fork or a spoon in order to remove the seeds. Now this is a great time that if you would like, we can save these seeds, we can rinse them off, we can bake them for a nice little treat for later. So I'm gonna go ahead and scrape out my seeds of my spaghetti squash. And there we go, nice and cleaned out and ready for the oven. Okay, so now I'm gonna get my baking dish or my baking pan. Any baking pan will do, metal or glass. I'm gonna be taking some olive oil and my basting brush and just coating the inside of my spaghetti squash, basting it. I'm gonna do just a little bit of black pepper, just to give a little bit of seasoning, and just a touch of salt. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn these around, and these are gonna go into a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes or until it's tender. So I'm gonna take my spaghetti squash out. It's nice tender. It's been about 45 minutes. And what I'm talking about when I'm referring to tender is I can take and just kind of squeeze the flesh and you're gonna feel it give, as opposed to when it was completely raw. You're gonna let these cool down and then we're going to prepare them. So I'm gonna flip these over. I'm gonna take whatever bowl or plate that you're gonna actually mix it in or put it into, and I'm gonna take a fork. And this is the really cool part that makes spaghetti squash fun, is the way it shreds, almost like noodles. Hence the name of our recipe, spaghetti squash Italiano. Nice long noodles, it completely shreds. This is its natural state. Just keep working it out, just finessing it out. I'm not really scooping too much. I'm just letting the fork pull out the threads. And that already looks really good, right? It looks like spaghetti noodles. So this is a really good way of introducing some more vegetables into those Italian dishes we love so much. You can see how easy this is. This is actually something we can give to our little ones. Let them help out in the kitchen. Give them the fork. You just want to make sure that they're cool to the touch, so you don't want to burn anybody. And it's a simple, just scraping process. Just going to continue just to pulling the threads, letting the fork do the work, pulling out my squash. You find a couple of seeds, no big deal, we missed them. But look at that, just a bunch of beautiful threads of squash. And that's why spaghetti squash is so unique. And now I have my spaghetti squash prepared. So now I'm gonna go to my saute pan. I'm gonna let my saute pan start getting hot, and I'm gonna start preparing the rest of my ingredients. I've got my garlic, great flavor. And the way I'm gonna peel these is I'm gonna put my garlic cloves flat on my cutting board, place my knife on it, and with the heel, just press down. Doesn't take a lot of force, and all that happens is I crushed it, and I was able to remove the skin. So for the other guy, and the same thing. Now this is gonna add a lot of great flavor. You can add as many or as little as you like, or if you don't have fresh garlic, by all means you can use a powdered garlic. It's another really easy way of doing it. And then I'm just going to do like a rough chop. Getting my knife, making sure my fingers are tucked back because I don't want to cut my fingers. So I'm just gonna walk my blade across, finely chop my garlic so I can get a little bit of garlic in each bite. Just continue to walk my blade. Every time the blade hits the cutting board, it's making a smaller cut. And then I'm going to just scrape that off my knife. Then now I have a hot pan. I'm gonna add some olive oil to my pan. Very nice. Then I'm gonna add my garlic. So I'm gonna let my garlic just saute just for a little bit. I don't wanna burn my garlic. Burnt garlic is one of those flavors that just kind of last inside your dish. So just a couple of moments, letting it get a little warmer, sauteing up, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and add my tomatoes. So the recipe calls for canned tomatoes. But if you have fresh tomatoes at home you'd like to use, by all means you can chop those up and put them in there as well. So this is gonna be my sauce. Now I have those tomatoes, I have the garlic, I have that olive oil. All of those flavors are just simmering together right now. And while those are simmering together, I'm gonna go ahead and start preparing my basil. Now, just like before with the spaghetti squash, we can get the younger members of our family, or any member of our family, to do this part. Just pick the basil leaves from the stems, and then we can either tear our basil for little hands that you don't want to give a knife to, or to work on your knife skills, you can chop your basil. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my basil and make it into a little bundle. I take my knife and I'm just gonna chop, and this is a rough chop, and now my basil can go inside my sauce. Oh, it smells awesome. Just love fresh basil. So I've got the garlic, the tomatoes, the basil now, the olive oil all simmering together. I could smell that garlic, that roasted garlic that's coming in there. I can smell that aromatic floral scent of the basil. I can smell the acidity. I can smell all of these different flavors that are just building together to create a fantastic final dish. So, this has been simmering for a few moments. Now I'm going to add my spaghetti squash to my tomato sauce mixture. In there, because I want to get everything nice and hot. There we go. And then to finish off the flavors of the dish, I'm going to be adding a balsamic vinegar to add a sweet acidity to the final dish. Just another level of flavor. Mix that around. I'm going to just mix this together. Get that spaghetti squash warm because it's been out of the oven for a little bit. Get all those flavors together. Simple, pretty quick dish. And now I'm going to plate. So there we go. Got it nice and plated. Looks beautiful. Now, if you noticed when I was making this recipe, I didn't reach for the salt shaker. because I'm using Parmesan cheese is a naturally salty element. So I'm gonna be using the ingredients in my recipe to give that salt to my dish. Just scrape it on, because you know everybody likes the cheese. A lot of great flavors. They're all gonna meld together. So here we go. Spaghetti squash Italiano. Let's give it a taste. Those noodles have totally absorbed that garlic, a little bit of acidity from the balsamic, the acidity from the tomatoes, that pop of salt coming from the Parmesan cheese. This came out perfect. Join us next time at Let's Cook.